Hello, welcome to the YouTube series on cybersecurity for everyday users. The goal of this video series is in very simple terms to make you, the everyday user, aware of different cybersecurity risks, to enable you to think like a hacker so you can recognize a potential attack and to know how to deal with cyber attacks. My name is Stoyanov. And the topic of this video is ransomware attacks. In this video, we will answer the questions: who are the attackers? And who is being targeted? What exactly the attackers are after? When did ransomware attacks first appear? And how did they evolve? Then we will look into how ransomware attacks work. But before we start, let's look at why ransomware attacks matter. Only in 2018, the cost of ransomware attacks exceeded $12 billion. And since that year, there has been a 74% increase in attacks. In 2020 alone, we have seen further 60% increase in ransomware attacks to a staggering $19 billion in damages, with an average ransom payment of more than $84,000. Later, we will talk about specific industries, but to highlight the potential significant damage, we should note that a recent attack on an oil and gas company resulted in $30 million in damages. Speaking of damages, since 2016, there have been 172 ransomware attacks against the healthcare field alone, resulting in more than $157 million in damages. Now, not all ransomware attacks are reported, so it is possible that numbers are much higher. Just to highlight the impact of ransomware attacks, let's have a look at some of the headlines today, the day this video is being recorded. A few days ago, the vital information systems of a major navigation company were taken offline by ransomware, and several charities were hit in addition to a TV ratings company. The headlines underscore the increase in sophistication of these attacks as employees keep working from home. And the last headline highlights the fact that ransomware attacks have even started stealing data in addition to encrypting it. We will talk about this shortly. Okay, now let's look at who the attackers are and who are the targets. Ransomware attacks are fairly stealthy. The attackers are often hackers or cyber criminals who frequently purchase ransomware as a service. Sometimes even nation-states have been accused of using ransomware. And who is being targeted? Primarily organizations that process sensitive information. Frequently companies in the healthcare, legal, education, and financial industries are being targeted. However, if there is an easy target, it will likely become a target. Further, we will talk about how not to become an easy target for ransomware. But if you're in one of these industries, ask yourself how and why your organization may become a target. Next, let's look at what ransomware is. Very simply put, it is a malicious program that will encrypt your data. You may have heard of different malicious programs, such as computer viruses, worms, and others. But what distinguishes ransomware is that it encrypts data. Now you may ask, what is encryption? It is a way to use an electronic key to scramble the data and to render it unreadable. So unless you have the key, you will not be able to unscramble the data. While encryption normally is used to secure the data, the hackers have found a way to use it for malicious purposes. Now let's have a brief look at the history of ransomware. At a high level, ransomware went through two major revisions. Ransomware 1.0 first appeared around 1989. That first revision was fairly simple. It would encrypt your disk and then ask for payment. Just anybody could use a pay-to-play service to carry out these attacks. Threat actors would sell ransomware kits online for as little as $1,000. Now, Ransomware 2.0 has been a game changer as it made the attack a lot more complicated, better planned, more targeted, and much stealthier. One distinguishing feature is that the attackers have added data theft to the attack. Instead of encrypting individual computers, Entire networks are being encrypted, causing millions of dollars in damages. Some hackers have even created tiered pricing. They may ask for ransom ranging from $2,000 for decrypting a single computer, all the way to hundreds of thousands of dollars for a critical server. Now, just to highlight the impact of ransomware, 204 million ransomware attacks occurred in 2018 alone. In 2019, 2,047 ransomware complaints were filed by American companies, a 37% increase over 2018. Every 14 seconds across the globe, a business falls victim to a ransomware attack. Next, let's look at the impact of ransomware attacks. As we discussed, there could be a significant financial impact as a result of an attack. It could cost companies millions of dollars to pay the ransom or to recover their data. In 2016, Riviera Beach in Florida agreed to an astonishing $600,000 ransom payment to hackers who took over its systems. Less than a week later, Lake City, Florida, handed over $460,000 to hackers. Ransomware may also cause major disruptions, especially if critical systems or information are impacted. In May 2017, the National Health Service of the United Kingdom was brought to a standstill for several days due to an outbreak of ransomware. The attack resulted in the cancellation of thousands of appointments and surgeries, and emergency patients had to be relocated. Staff were forced to use pen and paper and were using their own cell phones after the attack affected key systems, including telephones. Now, successful ransomware attacks may lead to negative publicity and could damage a company's reputation. After all, no organization wants to be a textbook case for a major ransomware attack, and there may be significant compliance implications of an attack, especially if extremely sensitive data was stolen by the hackers. A company could be subject to stiff legal penalties. Certain ransomware groups have even shown that they will publish confidential and private information if the ransom is not paid. More than 1 in 10 attacks have added blackmail to extortion. Next, let's look at how ransomware attacks work. Imagine the following scenario. A burglar breaks into your house. Then he starts looking for the master key to be able to unlock each and every room. Not only does the burglar steal your valuable belongings, but he starts changing the locks inside your house. By the time he's done, he ends up locking you out of your own house. So when you come back, you find a note on your door with the demand for payment to get the key so you can get back into your own house. So in the computer scenario, it takes one machine to get compromised. Now this would give the attacker access to the network. Next, the attacker will look for the master key. In a network, this is called Active Directory, or the keys to the kingdom. This will allow the attacker to explore and spread across the network. Then the attacker will identify sensitive information and will start stealing data. This could take days. As soon as he's done stealing the data, he will download and execute his malicious program, which will start encrypting everything. Next, let's look at how to prevent ransomware. A few things you as a user can do to protect yourself from ransomware. For that, we will use a memory aid, a mnemonic, the word ransom. Now, R is for regular backups. Make regular backups of all your data. It's as simple as purchasing a portable drive and then copying the information there periodically. Next, A is for apply patches and updates. Vendors issue patches and fixes to address common vulnerabilities that are used by hackers. So install these as soon as they become available. N is for never click on unknown links. Such links will often make you install malicious files. S is for security software. Turn on your firewall. Buy and install an anti-malware application. O is for open what you trust. This applies to messages, sites, files, and other things. And finally, M is for make security your priority. Always think security first. Next, let's talk about what corporations need to do to protect themselves against ransomware. For that, we will use a memory aid, a mnemonic, the word ransomware. R is for restricting access to your network and data. You must be guided by the principle of least privilege. And to enforce that, You need to implement strong role-based access control. Finally, consider blocking IP addresses from known bad actors. A is for awareness and training. Regularly train users in what ransomware is, how to recognize it, and how to avoid it. Users are your absolute first line of defense. N is for network architecture. Implement best practices such as proper segmentation, layering, and defense in depth. S is for sensitive data. You need to know where your sensitive data is. Do periodic risk assessments and do regular security assessments. O is for operations. You must have proper logging and monitoring in place to be able to detect anomalous activity on your network. M is for make backups. Always have full and incremental backups. Isolate these backups from the rest of the network. And apply the 3-2-1 principle. Keep 3 copies of the data, store these in 2 formats, and keep 1 offsite. W is for who to call. Have a plan and know who to call in case of a ransomware attack. A is for authentication. Implement strong 2-factor authentication and other security authentication mechanisms. R is for regular patching. Test and apply all patches, updates, and hotfixes as soon as possible. E is for employee knowledge. Have a contingency or an incident response plan if you're attacked. Train your IT group and then perform testing, and more testing. This wraps up our presentation, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. You should be better prepared to deal with ransomware now that you know who the attackers are and who is being targeted, what the attackers are after, when ransomware attacks first appeared, and how they evolved, and finally, how ransomware attacks work and how to protect yourself. Thank you very much.